welcome to our 20th Salon. And it's a special one because today I think is our first movie screening. There will be more. Yeah, first time we are doing a different format and really showing two movies actually this time. I'm going to be short and then we're going to go straight into the movie. I'm just going to introduce, first of all, for those who don't know Marc and Chantal, I just want to say it's our 33rd year anniversary this year, so it's been a while. And I want to share that we are now considering ourselves as an international company, and really with spreading across Europe to Asia, and working as always as brand master planners, storytellers, and artisans of change, which is connecting, I think, to our guest today, who's an artist, and we're not artists, we are just designers, but I think we want to talk about this connection in this particular salon. And you can see here, we have offices from Barcelona to Tokyo and in between. And I think that diversity of culture, insight, from a global perspective is something very important to us and to the theme of the talk today. Yeah. So, for those who maybe don't know, so just a few work again, really illustrating that global perspective and insight we are sharing in the company, and some of our not so recent work from Beijing Opposite House to Tycoon, of course, in Hong Kong, Rise in Seoul, and recent work in Europe, the beautiful Palace Madrid in Spain. And here you can see also some works in Japan, in Nara, where we created a really amazing experience in the Nara Park as a destination resort within a century-old garden. So just again to give you a sense of diversity and connecting, leading to our guest today, Michelle Fong. We will talk later. I think she will introduce herself later after the movie. But I just want to say that I consider Michelle, she's from Hong Kong with Canadian roots as well, but I see her really as a global citizen, just maybe as we see ourselves here. So we're living in this mix of culture with roots that in our own identity, but also with I think, a global perspective. So I think it will be part of our story today, and how do we explore that in different ways. Michelle will be sharing with us, and we will see two movies, short movies, animated movies that are part of a much wider project, a lifelong project actually, that is called The World in 2084. I won't say much more because we will explain later. But this two movie, first one is Plastic Everywhere, you will see first, and then Polluta, which is the most recent work. One more you see in black and white, and one more colorful. I also invited today my friend Yvette Kong, who's been coming to the salon before. Just before Michelle and Yvette met 10 days ago at Sinsin Gallery. Sinsin, my sister Sinsin is here. That I met Sinsin 32 years ago, the year where Yvette was born. So
oh my God.
Yes. Just get over it. Yeah. Of course, Yvette is a honorary member of Marc and Chantal. She's a dear friend, and she's, it's hard to explain everything she does, but she was the first Olympic swimmer for Hong Kong. I met her, she was working at Mackenzie, and she moved on to now lecturing at MIT in Boston, and much more. She's also an advocate and representative for Mind Hong Kong, advocating mental health in Hong Kong. But she just came back from the Venice Biennale, where for Hong Kong she created a art performance that I think when Michelle and Yvette talked at Sinsin last Saturday 2 weeks ago, I think they had a very passionate discussion. So I think it would be appropriate for Yvette to be here as well and just resonate on what we're going to see. So without further ado, I think it's movie time. I'm going to switch my laptop over here, and we're going to watch the two movies, I think in consecutive order. We start with Plastic, if you're okay with that.
Alternative plastic, love, peace, alternative plastic. That Midsummer Night's Dream, petroleum ice cream, I really wanna scream.
Don't melt!
Love, peace, alternative plastic. Love, peace, alternative plastic.
So we're going to talk a little bit about all this. There's so much, right, to share, I guess. So we have prepared questions, but I think it's more like themes actually, and we're just going to elaborate on that, right? So I think the first theme is about, again, things that resonate with us also at Marc and Chantal is this sense of, looking at themes that are very global, very current. You would say that are concern for a lot of people, whether they are obviously sustainability, but also democracy versus authoritarianism. When did you create this again? 5 years ago, right, the idea.
I did the animation from 2018 to 2023.
Right. So it seems so relevant, obviously, and unfortunately, 1984 is still relevant in 2024, in 2034. So anyway, that's life. But maybe we can talk about to start about this. I think your theme are really global, but you bring, as an artist, of course, your identity. There's obviously some Chinese themes that are, we don't say themes, but some Chinese iconography, references, motifs, together with some literary references that are not just Orwell, but some of the more recent ones that are, it's dark materials and things like that are super interesting.
Yes. Philip Pullman, his dark material, the trilogy. You probably know the Golden Compass. Should I start talking?
Yes. I'm going to shut up.
First of all, really thank you everyone for sharing this beautiful experience with me. Thank you, Marc, for inviting me, and thank you, Sinsin, for connecting us. 2 weeks ago, I just rewatched these two films at Asia Society. I actually hadn't watched them for years. After you've watched them thousands of times, you kind of want a break. And I was really touched 2 weeks ago to watch them. And I want to share tonight, I was equally touched, but differently.
You were enjoying it, I think.
I was.
Actually, you were. Yeah.
I was I was actually crying again during plastic everywhere. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, so the art was powerful and emotional to me, and I hope to some of you as well. But to answer your question.
Well, I mean, the question is also, I think, uh, how did you choose the film? What leads you into, those
Yeah.
those themes? Because I think we need to explain to 84 as a project.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
I'll do that right now. So I have this really crazy project that I decided to be lifelong. And this is an artwork, the G5 meeting. And these are 5 delegates of the 5 imaginary countries. And they make up the G5 in the world of 2084. Just as a reminder, starting from your left, Dreamland, Northlandia, Contradictoria, the Republic of Strata, and the Aristocratic Union. And I have spent 10 years, I've worked on Plastic Everywhere, which is the prologue. I have worked on Contradictoria, the middle country, for 10 years. You watched the animation. I started working on Northlandia 2 years ago, but research started in 2019. So you could see the projects are vast, and it's not just animation. There are woodcut prints, performances, ink paintings, ink drawings, woodcut paintings, woodcut prints. You can see some of them at my current exhibition at Sin Fine Art. You'll see some pictures just to give you a general idea. That's the scope of the project. And to answer your question specifically, Mark, yes, because even though now each country, I already have a general micro story for each one. And the starting point of each is different. For example, the starting point for Contradictoria was actually the modern propaganda materials in China. So that was the starting point. And then from that, it just spilled over to everything.
Yeah, because it's just an observation, which I noticed during the first screening at Asia Society is in Polluta is the use of hyperbole. Everything is very, very interesting and therefore very interesting. So it's not double speech per se, as per Orwell, but I think it reminds me of some current discourse in America, for example, in politics, where everything is like you've never seen that before. It's so great, make it great again, whatever. Is that something you had in mind already? Is pure coincidence, or is just a normal extension of that kind of mindset, I guess?
It's actually not just a coincidence because actually some of the speeches were based on official past political speeches. For example, the Polluta president speech was literally taken from Taliban's speech. I forgot the year. Do you remember?
When they actually took Kabul.
When they? Sorry.
When they actually conquered Kabul.
Oh, when they enter Kabul? Okay.
So I took an official speech script and then adapted it. And actually the 2 main characters, Eliza Riff is an anagram of falsifier, the word, and Miss Propagandria, of course, refers to propaganda. So I actually rewatched the film. I was picking up all the million layers that were planted, but even 2 weeks ago when I rewatched, I was not catching them. For example, the butterflies around Miss Propagandria, they actually eventually all turn into flies, and at which point and how many. There are just a million layers that I can go into. We can sit here for 3 hours.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Same here, I think. Every viewing, I think, will reveal something else, which is, I think, talking about the quality of the work.
Yeah, so to answer the cross-cultural question, I really see, first of all, I really see myself as a fusion person. I'm Chinese Canadian, and when people, for example, I really like to cook. So when people ask me, oh, so do you cook Chinese food at home or do you cook pasta? And I said, I don't know. I cook fusion, and don't ask me to make the same recipe because every time is an invention. And I also see my audiences as an international one. It's very intentional. That's why most of my works are in English. And if they're not in English, there's a very specific, clear reason why. And I draw ideas and I borrow references from all over. And I'm gonna use this work as an example. So this work is the red bean stalk. So you already know the story of Contradictoria. The only way to access this perfect ecotopian polluta is through the red bean stalk. So do you, actually we have a perfect audience here. When you ask a Caucasian red bean stalk, they usually think of,
Yum.
no, that's Caucasian, that's Caucasian. You're too Chinese now. You've been in Hong Kong for too long.
I've been here too long, yeah.
Yes, so most Caucasian would think Jack and the Giant Beanstalk. But when you talk to a Chinese person, they would say red bean soup. And do you actually know where do red beans grow? They actually grow on trees, which means the only portal to this perfect world does not exist. So that this idea came from Western fairy tales, European fairy tales, and also the Chinese attachment to red beans as a cultural motif. And this is also a woodcut painting that won an award last year, the Hong Kong Vogue Women's Art Prize with the Sovereign Art Foundation.
Yeah.
That's a good segue to the next theme, in a sense. The theme is of world building and dreamscapes. World building, I think, is definitely, defines what you're doing very specifically, and with 2084. Dreamscapes is a terms we coined, I think, recently to describe also what we do here at Mark and Chantal when we have a team. We, I think we project ourselves. Not only project, but also try to manifest a future, a space, an experience that is not there, but that we have in our mind that we can feel. So I felt there's so much connection with, again, from you as an artist, us more as designers or creative people, with projecting your mind, almost literally projecting your mind into, I think, a time and space or space-time that is maybe just in your head, in your heart, and that you want to share. So if you want to talk about this.
Yeah, actually, before we go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about that. Actually, this is really exciting for me to answer. It's something I've been thinking a lot the past couple of weeks. For me, what dreams are, they're really just your subconscious mind working or your subconscious heart working, because this whole world of 2084 came from a dream for me. And like the surrealist would say, it's the... And I remember many, many years ago in school, my advisor told me, Michelle, your best talent is your imagination. Let it go wild. And I'm still learning that balance because I'm still struggling with that internal protective mechanism that I'm not going to go all in or all out, because what if I do that and I fail? It means my greatest promise will fail me, right? But then I have to just let go of that safety mechanism and just let myself go wild. If I think polluta is in the sky, then it's in the sky. If I think the president is a goat, then it's a goat. And I'm constantly struggling with that. Choose the safe path because it feels safe, but then actually the safe path is deadly. So I'm learning that every single day and relearning.
I think talking about manifesting pushing for dreams that seems absolutely untenable. Yvette was the first Hong Kong swimmer to qualify for the Olympic in Rio. You qualified for Olympic in Rio, not the first, but yeah, you were. I mean, now of course we're winning everything. So, but you are part of that generation with Siobhan Nice is just unstoppable. But it's not just that, of course. What you're doing now, anything. So, just this idea of pushing for your dreams, or talk about it.
Yeah, I think growing up, is it on?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, thanks Mark, and wonderful screening, Michelle. Like I got so inspired. I only knew Michelle 10 days ago. I was at Simpsons Gallery, and I was just sending her questions ballistically. Yeah, talking about dreams, I think growing up in society, whether not in any culture, like in Asia or in Western, some part of us are conditioned to think that the sky, there is a limit. There is a certain way to do things and think about things. And I think this is a really nice, especially in Polluta, like I think the way that you are pushing out like a what if scenario, what if the world looks like there, is quite inspiring. And for me, I would love to learn more about your creative process, because I know that your artwork is very multi-layered. And what is special about Michelle's artwork and what struck me was that it was very research-based. So there's a blend of history, that's very true, taking out speeches and all that, but there's also very heavy literacy references. So George Orwell, 1984, it made me think of Animal Farm, and that's kind of satirical sense of thinking about further, what's beyond 1984. So would you share a little bit about how you went from that kind of groundedness and research in the history and also in fiction to speculating a wild imagination, wild speculation of what could be?
Yeah, I think the way I research, there are two ways. But in short, I read a lot, and then I take that jump. I take that leap of faith with my imagination. And every time I jump in midair, I have to find a way to grow my wings, because every time I feel like I'm gonna die.
It's like flying and falling at the same time.
Well, you fall, and then I find a way to just, before I hit rock bottom, I find a way up. And that's how I feel every time I push myself. And the way, practically how I research is I read a copious amount of materials. And sometimes the first time is just for interest, for entertainment. For example, I just started reading a book on maps this week because I want to redo some of the maps in my works. And at first is meandering reading. I'm just reading for fun. And then actually it's super important for research-based work. At one point, I have to assess and think, okay, I can go on enjoying this book, which has now become irrelevant to my works, or I need to decide this point in this book is very relevant. So I need to take it and decide and pursue and decide how. Whether it's a point that's enough and I just need to take that leap of imaginative faith, or I need to pursue this thread to another piece and continue my research until I feel ready, and then I jump off the cliff. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and that's quite inspiring to understand that process going behind. Like it sounds like there's also like a blend of discipline. Like there's this juggle between like discipline, when do I stop here and when do I push?
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about this.
It's actually not discipline, it's actually believe in yourself. So I think we all know it's whether you trust your gut feeling or not, or you let laziness or the wash of mediocrity to convince you to really think, when you're ready. you really know deep down. It's just whether you trust yourself or not. So this is the map of 2084, and you can see the 5 countries. I'm going to test you on the countries' names. I'm going to repeat them. Northlandia, Dreamland, the Aristocratic Union, the Republic of Strata, and Contradictoria. The original work is actually now showing at Sinsin Fine Arts. And yes, I'm now researching to do an updated map.
I mean, you work. It is quite, to me, it's quite rare to meet an artist who so decisively. When I first met you, I said, "So when is this gonna be finished?" It's like, it's a lifelong project, basically. And I think to start on that foot, I think it's pretty. It is all inspiring, and also I think it's a very conceptual approach, and yet, to go back, it's very rooted in reality as much as you imagine itself. So it's never disconnected as a pure as an abstraction. It is very much maybe not discipline, but there's a obsessive. Which I take as a...
You mean OCD?
Yeah, which I don't think you can do anything really interesting if you're not obsessed.
I have heard that, yes.
Yeah, you've been there. So, yeah. So I think this, what we would call master planning, because that's how we deal also with our approach to the project we deal with. I think you have a master planning, deep, internalized approach to your art, and how much they're blending into, your way of life, which it's not every day you see that. So maybe if you want to talk about this.
It is my everyday. But I really loved the way you asked this question, Mark, because so often I get the question, what do you want to say about the world of 2084? It's as if one sentence is enough to summarize a lifetime of work, because I find, especially with social media, short videos, and then with the fast culture in Hong Kong, they all want fast and condensed, and they don't want to elaborate. And I do have a short answer, but the real answer is, yeah, it continues to evolve because I evolve, the world evolves, and even though I have the main stories and the main themes, for example, each country is actually represented by an element, like Polluta, Contradictoria is air. And then Northlandia is water. One fire, blah, 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 right? But then how am I gonna know what will I make in 20 years? And how will I know what I'm crazy about in 20 years? So the work is open enough that I can dive into what I'm really excited about either at that moment or, the origin is all an excuse to dive into something I'm super interested in. Like right now I'm rereading European fairy tales for the Aristocratic Union, and it's something I was super passionate about in university. And there's always a starting point, and where that leads me, I kind of know, but I kind of don't. It's like on your first date, do you really know? Do you really want to know everything and just lose out on all the excitement? Why did you do that?
No, obviously I find it amazing, and relating to. I think it's very. It's great to have such a backbone and a framework without knowing, which is a guidance system in a sense, which allow you complete freedom in a sense. I hope, and I think actually strengthen your power to explore even further.
Yeah.
Because in a way you have a direction, and you can always fall back onto it, and completely it's a landscape that you can explore at will. So it's fascinating as a mechanism, if it's a mechanism. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. I think I'm always struggling between obsessive planning and just going with the flow, because I love and adore my father, who was an engineer. I just completed recently my second 10-year life plan, and I'm very good at logistics, even though I hate it with a passion. So it's like that's how I plan my life and daily routine. But then I also have to really jump when the imagination hits. It's a delicate balance for me. It's every day and it's lifelong.
It feels like planning a DJ set, Coco. You're not sure where you're going, but you have an idea. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I never get lost because I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a decisive moment in my practice when I decided to make this project lifelong. So this project actually began as a graduation project, as I mentioned, in 2015. And did I mention that I was so ambitious and I wanted to do everything? I wanted to do animation and performance, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I did most of them in 3 years. So by 2018, I had my first Palooza exhibition in California. This was Pro Arts Gallery in Oakland, California. And actually, during the exhibition, I met a lot of local established artists and curators, and they all seemed to be more interested in this world of 2084 than I was, and they asked endless interesting questions. And that was the moment when I realized, hey, this project actually has some legs and it's actually interesting. Do I really want to give away the child I gave birth to? So that was the decisive moment when I decided to, let's just go all in, just make it lifelong.
I love that.
Yvette also asked me how I research. And besides reading and watching films, documentaries, I also do a lot of physical research. And Northlandia is the only Arctic country in this world. And in 2019, I had a ton of notes, 100 pages, but I couldn't translate them into artworks. So I thought, okay, I need some emotional, personal connection with this Arctic landscape, not just know. So I looked up Arctic residencies. And in 2023, I finally went to Svalbard. We started in Longyearbyen, which is the world's northernmost town. It's 3 hours straight north from Oslo. And I spent 1 month there and researched. And I collected so many motifs. And really, in that month, I made 24 woodcut prints. So 4 years, I couldn't make any works. And then 1 month, I made 24. And that was the beginning of making works for Northlandia. And you could see this is a woodcut painting of Polar Bien, which is a woodcut painting, and it's based on Longyearbyen.
So this is where we delve into. So I call that the rabbit hole of artisanship. So I think Michelle shared with me some, and I think we're going to talk about process and about how we do all those things. Share with me some insight of, and you're going to tell us how you create the first movie we saw more in black and white and sepia tone. After Effects, which maybe some of you know this software, using your collage, using your thing, putting it all together, and learning by yourself how to do all this, and it took you years, right, and thousands of hours. And I think as designers, and I was using After Effects a long time ago. At the time we were doing some video for some client, and I had this reminiscence of almost PTSD, but at the same time I think it's comforting when you get obsessed by the tools, because even though it's painful, it can be painful because it's so, you can lose yourself and lose the notion of time into creating something, and you just spiral down into the process and the tool and the technicality of it. So I think it's a good time to, and I'm sure it relates to training also for.
Definitely. And I think that's something that, now you're working with artists and athletes, I think that that's something in common, is that pursuit of of that very fine detail, that what we call kind of as OCD,
Yeah.
Muscle memories, right?
muscle memories, that kind of mindset, the relentless pursuit of something. You know, we talk about 80-20, using 20% of effort to achieve 80. I think for artists and athletes, when we get up to a certain point, is using 90% of effort for that
1%.
1%. Yes,
Like
yes.
The last.
Or 0.1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your, like, how do you sustain yourself? How, like, I mean, this is quite impressive, right? It's a lifelong project. And you just came in with a conviction and the commitment that, look, this is what I'm going to do. What is the state that you want to achieve with this, like 2084, this lifelong project? What would success look like to you, and how do you plan to get there now that you like planning?
No is not an option. And that's how I work and that's how I live. What is the picture of success? That's a more difficult question, because I think the picture of professional success and artistic success are different. And it's very easy to confuse the two. And it's up to each artist to decide which is more important.
But okay, let's talk then about the
The technical process?
yeah, let's, because it's fascinating, right? So maybe if on
Yeah.
plastic,
Yeah,
or this,
well,
I mean,
we
this
can-
is, yeah, you can jump to
first.
yeah.
Yeah, so in 2015, I just graduated from grad school and I really wanted to make this animation. So you could see in the middle one, that was me laying out all the works I had done. And then at the grad show, I was freaking out because I thought I could make this animation in 3 weeks and I had no experience in animation. It did not happen. I made a drawing installation for the grad show. It worked out, won an award, everything. So after I got my certificate, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna make my animation. And I really wanted to work with someone because I had no bloody idea how to do it. But no one knew me. So everyone turned me down. So that was the moment when I thought, if no one will help me, I'll just do it myself. So I just learned how to animate on YouTube tutorials. And the animation was made by hand painted mixed media Chinese ink on rice paper. And then they're cut out digitally in Photoshop, sometimes physically cut out. And then they were animated in After Effects. And I don't remember anything in After Effects anymore. I don't want to, because the second film, luckily I worked with a small team. So the second film turned out to be, the leadership work and communication work was as much as the creative work. So I wrote the script. I think I stopped at version 10. And then everything was again hand painted and would it play? So everything again was hand drawn and hand painted. And this time I had 2 really wonderful young animators to work with me. And I also had a very talented composer who composed all the music and designed the sound. And she just committed to our next project. So I'm very excited about the next animation project.
Right. Yeah, I think the music, if we, I mean, in both, I think in both movies, of course, it's so important. And I think there's obviously an operatic quality to Polluta in particular. Jumping, I think, just watching it and also thinking, and we were talking last weekend or 2 weeks ago about the also Yvette performance in Venice Biennale. I think there's your work. I don't want to, I think could lead itself to performance as well. It could be become almost like a modern opera in a sense. That'd be fun. Okay.
I would love that. You organize it, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, I won't see.
Oh, so these are actually all the artist characters in Palooza. They're actual living artists. It refers to another body of works. So this is actually still in my studio. This is how I keep track of them and make sure they all make a cameo appearance in the film.
So next theme, I guess the last one, and then we take question. It's interesting because we have here Michelle, artist defining herself as interdisciplinary. Yvette here, teaching, lecturing on transdisciplinary design in MIT and Harvard. Ourselves, Mark and Chantal, when we started the company 30 years ago, we were very quickly defined ourselves as cross-disciplinary, mixing. We are didn't want it to look at boundaries and silos so much, and people really, literally were laughing at us when we say that. But I mean, I think there's such a important thing to see beyond, silos and expectation of people when it comes to the output and the way you do it also. And your work is, on so many different media. And for me, it was a great experience because I first saw your exhibition at Sin on the wall, and then walking into the Asia Society without really knowing what to expect, it was just blow me away. So.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's really funny because at one point I realized all my artist friends were introducing me to their artist friends as, oh, she's a printmaking artist. And then someone else whom I met in the illustration world referred to me, oh yeah, she's in illustration. And I'm sure now when you introduce me to your friend, you say, oh, I met this animation artist, right? So it's like when I'm in different contexts, I'm perceived differently, even though the work is the same. And actually, once upon a time, I used to really, really mind. I was like, no, I do more than just printmaking. No, like I'm not in illustration. But now I'm actually happy about that because at least they remember me, they remember something I do. And I want to take an example from the picture book that just came out last month. So this is a wordless picture book. And feel free to flip through them, they're also available. You'll see that there are a lot of fine art, like contemporary art in it because I try to make every page like a complete painting. And I was having conversations with people who are really in picture book world. They don't see storytelling this way. So they say, oh, you bring a lot of your contemporary art, visual language into it. And I don't really know because you don't really see the air you breathe until a foreigner comes tell you, actually you have an accent. So for example, this was Plastic Everywhere presented in two different contexts. On the right was the closing event at Pro Arts Gallery in Oakland, California. So we projected Plastic Everywhere onto a building. That was really beautiful. And then on the left, that was Ink Asia. It's the annual art fair at Convention Center in Hong Kong, and they specialize in Chinese ink works. And curator Eric Leung, he curates a project of all the Chinese ink animation every year. And that was just, it was flawless. The installation and the sound and the projection, and it was this cinematic experience, but very much rooted in the contemporary art perfection context. And every time I watch this, it's a different experience. It takes on a different meaning because when works are presented in different settings to different people, it just borrows energy and borrows different meanings and connotations.
For sure, the context is everything, and I think it's perfectly fine that people see you from different angle, your different facet. They don't have to see everything.
I'm fascinating from any angle, Mark.
We talked about this before. All right. What is this one?
So the many of the works we talked about, like up on the left, you could see the algae treatment, but in woodcut print form, the red beanstalk, plastic everywhere, some of the pro arts artworks, the G5 meeting, polar bear painting. They're actually all in an exhibition that closes on Saturday. It's at the gallery of our wonderful Sin Sin in Wong Chuk Hang. I will be there this Saturday, which is the exhibition's last day, 1 to 5. I would love to see you there, tell you more stories, or you can just enjoy the art in silence as well.
Yeah, I think that's why we rush to do it. I mean, rush. Yes, rush to do this salon today, so that you guys can also enjoy going. I'll be there on Saturday to close the wonderful exhibition. I have to say that without Sin Sin, none of this will happen. So,
She's
So-
amazing
so
in more ways than one.
So, thank you, Sin Sin, for 33 years of friendship and for just keeping going. So I think everybody want the drinks, everybody want to eat something, but maybe we open to question now. If anybody has question, and then we'll move on. Anybody? Oh, I can see your question.
We have a question.
Yeah, I think this question you have been asked for like quite a number of times.
We'll
because,
see.
like with the AI and so on.
Oh yes.
Oh, yes.
so,
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
As someone who creates futuristic narrative through animation, how do you see AI influencing the storytelling? And also, like nowadays, people have been generating visuals, copies, even scripts through AI. With things that you do that is so emotionally charged, issues like climate change, pollution, so on and so forth. Do you think AI can ever replicate the kind of intuitive, emotional world that you're building?
Thank you for that question. Well, this feels like my living room because my husband is actually an AI expert. To answer your question, manifold. I personally don't feel challenged or attacked because I'm super old school. I mean, I don't even make digital drawings. I have an iPad that's a hand-me-down from my mom. I don't have Procreate on my iPad. I don't know how to draw digitally, so I just don't care. I only work on wood, paper, canvas in this physical world. So in a way, I don't care. On a second level, you really have to be clear what people are buying from you. What do people want from you? Why are you here? Why are you giving me 3 hours of your life? You want a piece of my life. You want a piece of my mind. You want a piece of how I see that world. You want to expand and enrich your life experiences through my works. That's why you're here. That's why people watch my works. That's why people buy my works. That's why people see my works. So as a creative person or just any person, you really need to know your value and what you're worth. And quickly, third layer, I don't see AI as any different from internet or the Industrial Revolution or any really major technological change, agriculture. Of course, we have to adapt. Of course, there will be big changes. Of course, it'll be very scary. It'll wipe out a lot of people. It's up to the government, the industry, and up to us individually. How can we help people who really make their livings just with technical skills? But then also, how can we train ourselves to not just rely on technical skills? Because that will be replaced by AI very quickly and efficiently.
Quite a demonstration. Any other question? Danny.
What surprised you the most in creating these worlds? Like, what sort of came out and like you didn't expect it?
Every day is a surprise. Like yesterday, I just spent 5 hours with a mentor from Taiwan, and she knows my works so well. So she just looked at all my recent works and gave me a lot of feedback. So this morning, I actually sat down and just went through a lot of her notes and just redid everything. And I was surprised by how much I didn't know, how much I had missed, but also how much I had already known. So I really think making art is a way to understand yourself and also understand your world and to navigate the world as well.
Anyway, I think we're gonna have drinks now, of course, as we do. And also, stay tuned for Salon. I think we'll have more. I think Yvette deserves probably one full salon in the year. And we will have also other surprise by the end of the year. So again, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here and supporting. And thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you everyone for sharing this beautiful evening.
Thank you. Great.